Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. So today, I had actually filmed something kind of nice and sweet, but I decided not to be nice and sweet, and I might just post that for members on Friday because screw that. You don't want to know why? So today, someday I thrifted a medium and I tried it on this morning and I low-key fit in it. I low-key fit in these. So I just wouldn't quite wear it like to the gym yet because I wouldn't want to, gosh, I cannot figure out this camera. I wouldn't want to stretch it at all, but honey, it gave me a huge dose of CBA, skinny bitch attitude. So, because a medium, honey, a medium. Just cannot even. So let's go ahead and listen to this. I'm not going to do the whole episode. I just want to do like a part of it basically, or like a segment, because this one is a little treacherous for YouTube. So let's go for it.
A lot of things. A lot of things have happened this week. And my mental health has just been declining with them. But the first thing that happened this week was I was working at my job, managing a cute little boutique, and
their audio is bad, by the way.
Lovely ladies walked into the store and they were shopping together. And they were yapping, and they, seemed to be having a lovely time together. Two friends, I would assume. Mm-hmm. Personally, I believe I assumed incorrectly because I can't imagine talking to my friend this way. One of the girls was a straight size, a very thin straight size person. The other girl looked more similar to us. And as they were approaching the sales counter, the straight size person says to the not straight size person, "That's why I can't smoke weed, because I get fat." I'm just letting that lay there for a second because it's infuriating to me. Because
okay, why? Why is it infuriating to you? Do you have some kind of agenda in favor of weed? Are you obsessed with it yourself? That's what most people would think. Or is it some kind of internalized issue of your own? Because here's the thing about finding something so great. If you find something great, it doesn't matter if other people don't. That attitude is very high school. If I like Taylor Swift and somebody else doesn't like Taylor Swift, it doesn't take anything away from me. I still like her. That other person can have valid reasons. That other person can have valid criticisms of her. That other person can have totally different taste. It doesn't matter because I still like her. It doesn't affect me because I'm not in high school. That's high school logic to start with. What I think is going on and what most people think is going on, is that you don't actually like being fat that much. Now, if I was really pretending that I liked something, but I didn't, and somebody else was honest about not liking the same thing that I internally didn't like, then that would make me mad. Unless if I was in high school, like I said. High school is a different situation, but we're not, and you're not.
I realize that this girl probably had no ill intent, right? She probably had no ill intent in saying these things, right? She probably had no ill intent. She wasn't thinking anything badly of her friend. But if you think about it, okay, so you just told your friend, "I can't smoke weed because then I'll look like you."
Yeah.
Oh, what? What?
Yeah.
What? No. And you said it in front of me. And babe, I know you have eyes. So you said that in front of two fat people.
Honey,
because I'll get fat.
I'm going to say it 20 million times a day in front of every fat person I know. This isn't going to get anybody to not want to say these things. This is going to make people want to say it even more. I probably wouldn't even think to say things like that. But now that you said that, I'm like, I think I will. I think I'll say things like that more. I think you need to wake up. It's ridiculous. This isn't like some casual lifestyle path for you. This is not healthy. This isn't good. This is not a good place to be. It doesn't make any sense to care or want somebody else to be in the same position as you. It just doesn't make any sense. If somebody else doesn't want to be in the same position as you, that's their prerogative. If you truly believed it was just a matter of taste, it'd be like somebody saying, gosh, I really don't want to go to that Taylor Swift concert. I couldn't be caught dead there. I wouldn't care if someone said that to me. But it's not truly neutral to you. It's not. So I think that my opinion of this stuff, there's a difference between calling someone out personally and saying, you look disgusting, you look fat. That is triggering. But saying something about yourself, I don't want to be fat, if that's upsetting to somebody, that's their problem, honestly. And I'm sorry, girl, but you have to live in reality. That's reality knocking on the door. Most people don't want to be. It isn't fun. It isn't cute. It isn't any of those things.
Maybe girl, number one, sorry.
No.
Smoking weed is fun. So if your friend won't smoke weed with you because she doesn't want to get
See,
fat.
so she's just a weed shiller, which, whatever. If you want to show for weed, go ahead. It's not exactly a give me liberty or give me death moment. It's always really, 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 really cringy to me personally when people like rush to the defense of weed and are so extra about it. It kind of disgusts me a little bit. Like, it does make me judge. I'm going to be honest. It does. I don't really judge if somebody uses it responsibly, but when somebody promotes it or acts like it's God's gift and all this stuff, it's really like, it's just like, it's like somebody, to me, it'd be like somebody doing that with alcohol or something. It's just like, ooh, it's just not a cute look, honestly. And it's just really cringy at best. And if you're trying to push somebody to use it, that's really stupid and pedestrian, honestly. And that's also very high school, which, I don't know, I guess I'm in my, I'm too old for that. I'm starting to get into that mode where I'm just like, ooh, that's really cringy. And again, if she was like 10 years younger, maybe I wouldn't judge as much, but I'm going to be a little bit ageist. That's cringe. In your upper 30s, mid to late 30s, shilling for weed, really, girl, get a grip. And then not only to shill for it, but to try to use your quote-unquote politics as a part of promoting it, it is just so cringy to me. It's like, girl, if you want to do it every single day, go ahead. But you are a huge testimony on how fat it can actually make you. So it is a huge self-own, just all around. I'm sorry.
That's what we think. But in legal states. But yeah,
I was going to say, do you feel like it is an inference in when you infer something?
inference, yeah.
Also, I did it once, and it was boring as hell. It was boring. I didn't like it. And I never did it again because it was so boring. It bored me to death. Literally. I was like, ew. So it's just a personal thing as well. I just don't like it.
Do you feel like it is an...
I'm so pleased how pleased you were.
Do you feel like there's an inference from people who are smaller to people who are bigger, that they don't want to be big too, that it's like a shared commonality, and that's what makes it okay to say? She was like, oh, I don't want to do that because then we both be in the same boat.
Exactly. Exactly. I very much think that's what it is. Like,
No, I think it really doesn't have as much to do with the other person. I don't think that they recognize that there's a difference in people's brain, like in how they think about their body image versus somebody else's. It's a huge, like, it's not all that connected. That's how things like body dysmorphia can exist. Somebody can look at somebody else's size and see it really objectively, and they can't look at their own because it's like a different part of the brain. And even within the mids, I've struggled a little bit. I told you guys where I've had some moments of this, but then, like I said, I'm like, I feel like I'm not making any progress, or I feel like not much is happening. And then I'm sitting there putting on medium shorts, and I'm like, okay, well, that's like objective, you know? That's an objective reality moment. That's a thrifted medium. That's not like a Walmart 2025 medium. That's like probably older school medium. You know, it's like, whoa. So that's where reality comes a knocking, and it's okay. In the mids, I agree with people who have said, like, you start to lose weight blindness, or you start to really see how big you actually are. I've considered it a phase where you can be confident enough to not be confident. That's basically mid. It's like you're at an okay position, so you don't have to cope. It's like there's no more coping in the mids. You just are what you are. And all that can be really confusing, and it can jumble you up in your brain during this phase. But in terms of like a thin person who's just saying that, they just don't want to be fat. They just don't. She probably doesn't care at all if her friend is fat. But it's totally different to be around something, to be friends with someone who's in a certain state, and to be in that certain state yourself. It's very different. It's just a very, very different thing. It's a different level of commitment if you want to go there. It's just totally different. So even if you're just judging it, let's say we didn't use a different part of our brain to judge ourselves versus others, you still would be able to look at it really differently because it's a different level of commitment. It's like if I go out with a very fat friend, I have to deal with their fatness for that outing. If I am the very fat friend, I have to deal with my fatness 24/7. It's totally different. It's totally different. And that is a reality. And something that I have noticed since I've become thinner, or since I'm getting towards being thin, like I'm getting towards, I would say I'm beyond the mid of mid, is a lot of people who are thinner, they are more honest about fatness, basically. They are. And I could be very mid-sized princessy about it, and I could be like, oh my gosh, da, 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 da. Oh gosh, oh, people are saying all these things, da, da. But I don't identify with being fat, so it doesn't bother me very much. I'm like, oh, okay, because I just see it really objectively. Oftentimes when people complain about it, they're complaining about like having to walk slower. They're complaining about like seating. They're complaining about, just things that are very like practical. It's usually not personal when it comes to somebody else's fatness. It's usually like, oh, there's a practical concern, or oh, this, or oh, that, which, again, I do advocate to be supportive of your fat friends. Like, if you actually are supportive, then yes, do make those accommodations and stuff, and don't make them a big deal. Like, getting a fat friend out of the house, for example, is like really helpful, and these kinds of things. Like, if you want to help with that kind of stuff, I really support doing all that. But again, being in the mids, I can kind of see things from both sides now, which is really weird. By the way, that part of it is weird. But I can see how it really can inconvenience people. And I think in terms of friendships, that inconvenience, it can be a liability. And that's why I think a lot of fat people have a pressure to be nicer, or they have a pressure to be more accommodating because they have to be accommodated for. And that's why I talked about that aspect a lot in the small fat era, of how you kind of have to be brat or demure. It's not that anybody is 100% one or the other. It's that you have to choose one because it can be a lane, because you have to survive. But what do Brat and Demir have in common? You're not judging other people. Because oftentimes you're small enough where you can go out and still do things, but big enough where there has to be accommodations made. So that can be really complicated. And you have to be in your lane, kind of funny, lighthearted. You have to bring something to a social situation. These are just basic advice socially. Like, this is very, very basic, which I'm only saying it because I'm introverted and I know other introverts need to hear this stuff. That's why I talked about it that way, because there is an accommodation factor. There just is. Even within small fat levels. But certainly if you're bigger, then there's even more. So it's just something that you have to consider. As a small fat person, you're going to be invited into more rooms. You're going to be going to more things because you're not as limited. So you do have to be aware of that kind of thing and be either very pleasant or very ratchet, basically. That's kind of your lane. When you become a mid-sized person, or you're a mid-sized princess like me at this moment, people put up with it. Why? Because I can't even remember the last time my fatness has gotten in someone else's way. It just doesn't happen. I don't ever need to slow down. I don't ever take up all the space or any of that stuff. I don't do any of that anymore. I used to. Even like as recently as August, when I went to LA, there were some moments where my fatness was a problem in August of 2024. And I was small fat. And it's a little irritating for people. You see? But by the time I went back to LA in March, there was nothing. Nothing. So it's like, it's a thing. It's a thing. And it is interesting to kind of hear conversations or hear things about it from the other side, so to speak. I know that's really like cheesy to say, but like I told you, most of it has to do with practical concerns like spacing and pacing, which is very basic. And it's not to make a fat person feel like shit. It's just to bring awareness to it. There can be issues. And you have to accommodate too. It has to go both ways. And sometimes, or a lot of fat people, they don't see that side of things either. But when somebody says, I don't want to be fat, they're talking about stuff like that. They don't want to have to walk slower. They don't want to have to go to a specific store. They don't want to have to buy 2 plane seats. They don't want to have to do any of these practical things, let alone the health outcomes. And if somebody told me, if they're like, well, I don't want to be mid, I don't want to be chubby, or whatever somebody wants to say, right? Or if they just considered mid to be fat, I don't want to be that. In my mind, I know they were saying, I don't want to be mid. And that's more for vanity. And it still doesn't bother me. And it's like, okay, yeah, you don't want to have a mid physique. You want to look better. Okay. What's it to me? I don't really want to be mid either. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't bother me. It's like, if you want to put in the work to be in shape and stuff, why would that bother me? And that's like for a very shallow thing. When we're talking about fat, that's where it is actually like, it takes accommodation. So it's like, just be real. And I can't even imagine how much accommodation is needed for them. And they're just kind of delulu. It's like, you're not living in reality. When you get to be super morbidly obese like they are, you barely feel human. Like, you start to feel disconnected from others. It's very desolate. I've talked about it. It's isolating and it's desolate because you can't relate. And they are so toxic that they only want to talk to other women who are super morbidly obese, because then they don't feel different, rather than just, oh, I don't know, having a common sense conformity. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It's common sense to just be of a normal weight. It's good for you. It's good for everyone else. If you want to be anti-conformist, have a weird hairstyle or something, or dye your hair a different color or something. I don't know. But it's like there are other ways of being nonconformist if that's so important to you. This is not the way to do it. This is toxic, it's unhealthy, and it's just a huge problem and a liability. It's a liability. I'm just being real with you. It needs to be said.
You don't want to be that way, and I definitely don't want to get that way. So, like, that's why I'm making this comment, right? It is that assumption. It's that assumption, like, you're probably not comfortable in your body, and I wouldn't be comfortable in that body either. So that's why I feel okay making this kind of comment.
At that size, it's practical. There's practical concerns besides even just the health concerns. So even if a thin person doesn't understand those health concerns that well because they've never been that big, they are looking at it practically. They're looking at the reality of it. And again, I do believe in weight blindness. I didn't necessarily ever think about it until I got to the mids and it went away. Weight blindness is a thing. You kind of, your mind plays tricks on you so that you can survive in that state and you don't realize how big you are. You don't see it. And it's a way to protect your psychology. Your psyche is trying to protect yourself. But it's like people don't have weight blindness in the world. They see how big you are. And when you become mid, you start to see how big you were and how big you are currently. And that's why people can be like, oh, I feel even bigger than I did before. It's because you don't have that blindness anymore. You can see where you're actually at. Like when I look in the mirror now, I don't see somebody huge. I just see mid. You know, at this point, I do see and I can perceive that I'm starting to lean thin. I'm starting to get closer to thin than to fat within the mids. And again, putting on a medium shorts today, and you know, that's a letter I never thought I would see. I never thought I'd see M. Ever. But it's like that's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, I can see it. And I ask for feedback, I told you, from friends who will tell me no or tell me I'm making a bad choice or whatever. You want to do that because then those friends are going to be honest with you. It's good to have some harsh friends, or it's good to especially ask a thinner friend, honestly, who probably doesn't have weight blindness. Now, if they have some toxic ritualistic stuff going on, just be aware of that. But even in that state, most thin people, they can look at someone else more objectively than themselves if they have those issues, because it just tends to present differently on the reductive side, in my opinion. But I'm just saying, ask multiple people. For my introverts, ask multiple people. Do not depend on one person. I love you, introverts. I love you. That's why I speak to you, because I know you guys hear that and you're like, I'm going to ask my one friend. No. Ask like 5. At least 3 or 4. I'll give you specifics. At least 3. At least. You need at least 3 points of data. At least. But the more the better. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah. I often don't see it said in such an explicit way of I will become that, and that's obviously not something I want to become. What I tend to see it more often from friends and such is things like kind of commiserating, not even necessarily commiserating, kind of like joining in on like, ooh, we're being naughty and we're having naughty food, you know, and like just a lot of food moralizing, or you know, like, we're gonna do this, but tomorrow's a day I'll get back in track. So I tend to find it more positioned.
I think that's so funny that bothers them. I think I'm gonna be real. I have to just be real. I think it's kind of gay when people say things like that. I do. But again, you know, I'm not homophobic. No, I'm just kidding. It's okay to be a little gay sometimes. It's cheesy. But it's like, I think people are just being cheesy. They're having fun. They're saying something kind of corny. That's all. It's not that serious. Calm down.
towards, I know you're the person I can be naughty with.
Mm-hmm.
And eat the foods with and not get called out for it with. So let's go be naughty together and do the whole chips and queso margs.
Well, that happens if that's your whole personality. So if eating is your whole personality, then friends will go to you for that. If that's what you have to offer, then that's what they'll go to you for. And I'm just being very, very, very brutally honest in this video.
Whereas I wouldn't maybe feel comfortable saying that to my other thin friends who I'm going to go be at the gym with later in the week. So I hear that, and a lot of that goes unsaid. I haven't had many experiences with my friends saying that explicit thing. What I tend to get, and these are some of these memories have literally stayed with me for years. Like, it's things people said to me 5 years ago, is something like, oh yeah, well, she's, talking about someone we both know, like, oh, she's gained weight since then, or so-and-so said, like, she wouldn't even look good in that dress, or like, it's more body shaming towards others, and they say it in a way that's obvious about body size, and they say it to me, and what am I supposed to do with that, right? And a lot of times I haven't necessarily felt empowered to say anything. I usually am just like surprised and I stay silent, like I have a non-response to it. But
I don't think it's surprising. It's something that has gone on forever and will always go on forever. So to me, I think for me, I'll either agree or disagree. I'll either say, oh, no, I think it does look good, or oh, yeah, it really doesn't. It's just not that big of a deal.
But those things have stayed with me for years, and it doesn't mean I end the friendship.
For years? Jeez.
I ended friendships over it because it hasn't been about my body. But I'm very aware, that they would never want their body to look like my body. And quite frankly, I don't care.
Sure.
But there's no reason to come and tell me and shame my day because you don't want to be fat.
Well, it isn't necessarily even an issue with fatness. And it isn't even necessarily an issue for...
Well, I think that's the thing too. Do you want your friends to be honest with you or not? Do you want your friends to walk on eggshells around you, or do you want them to be real? It's a balance. I get it. This is a balance within any friendship, within any relationship. Some people have very, 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 very high standards. Some people, there's a lot of eggshells to walk on, and some people do not give a fuck about what is said in a friendship. And then there's people all the way in between. And these are different boundaries that people have to draw. I personally don't really care that much about this. I just don't. I really don't. But again, I'm not somebody who's extremely sensitive, very anti-humor. I'm not somebody who, I just don't care. I want people to be real around me. That's what I value personally. So I'd much rather somebody say something non-politically correct around me than to sit here and be on eggshells with me. That's just my style. That's my life. I would rather know how people actually feel. Personally, I've been the one where I wanted eggshells around me. I've been the one where I don't give a fuck. I prefer the not giving an F. Because just because somebody isn't saying something doesn't mean that they don't feel it or they don't think it. And it's for me personally, I'd rather just know who I'm talking to. And I also don't have I don't think I'm perfect. So I'm not on my high horse judging everybody all the time for what they think or feel or whatever. It's I can be a bitch too. I can be sweet too. I can be all of it. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't judge as much. It's more so just, do I like the person? Especially with a friend. It's do I like them? If I do, then I'm going to talk to them. If I don't, then I'm not going to. But yeah, thin friends will say certain things like that. I think sometimes even fat friends will say things like that. People will just say things like that. Do you want to make your circle more and more and more insulated when it's really not that bad? But like I said, I can understand if something is really, really, really toxic or really awful or whatever. But if it's just a comment that dress doesn't look good, I don't know. All I'm trying to say is if you have those high standards, then you need to have them for yourself too. That's all. That's all.
Fat people. And I say this because I had a really impactful experience. I was in New York. I was visiting. I went to a local deli. I was ordering my bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich in the morning. And I was waiting online. I was picking up an order for a couple of people. So
Okay.
like, it was taking a minute. I was off to this.
I think they're shifting to a different topic. I might revisit this. I just wanted to rant a lot on this one, but I will stop it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Peace.